And welcome back to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. We might be calling it the Couch GMs 3.0. It is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. We're back right in time for free agency to kick off. George, Tyler are with me as always. How are you boys doing?
I missed y'all. It's been a long time, but I think I feel refreshed after the horrific loss that I saw about a month ago, and I'm ready to go.
I didn't miss you guys, but I'm here anyway.
I'm surprised. Tyler is still mad. We're going to get him back in football mode as the season progresses. We had the combine, so we can talk about that, free agency. But before we get into what we're doing, I want to let everyone know about some changes in the show. And Tyler and George, you're welcome to jump in any moment. But throughout the rest of this offseason, we're going to be doing shows every other Wednesday, not each week, but every other Wednesday. But I will say there are some bonus episodes that we might sprinkle in. If big news, instant reactions from just one of us, all three of us. Maybe next week, because next week is scheduled off week, but every agency week, so we might have to hop on and talk to you guys. All along those lines, we're expanding, we're covering. Don't worry, fantasy football talk is not anywhere. But we enjoy football, we enjoy fantasy. We're starting to get into a little bit of sports gambling, and this show is about how much we love the NFL and all that comes with it, and we want to share that with you guys. So fantasy's still here. We'll still be happy to answer your fantasy questions, but we're going to broaden it to more NFL talk, especially during the off season. With more NFL talk comes more discussions and debates, which are one of our favorite parts about podcasting. So we hope you enjoy those too. We have new segments coming throughout the offseason, kicking it off this week at the end of the show with what we're calling Tyler's Oddball Fact of the Day, because you only see us once a week, but Tyler sends us weird stuff all the time. And it's like, bro, you got to let the listeners know. At the end of the day, we want this podcast to feel like you're sitting on the couch. We're all Couch GMs having this discussion with us. That's what we want this podcast to feel like. You're welcome to join the discussions in the comments below, leave reviews, and you can follow us at the Couch GMs on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, pretty much everywhere. We're there looking at discussions. Boys, did I miss anything?
Nah, man, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, the biggest thing is we're going to be more conversational. We're going to bring back the root of why we started this, and I hope you guys enjoy it, just being able to join a discussion with us.
Yeah, and if we say anything that is look, if you've listened to us at all, you know that we like to argue, especially me, because I am the hot takes guy. I say something that's way out of left field, and I will argue that point to the ends of the earth. And when you guys say something and I'm against it, I gotta argue back with you. And I urge our listeners to do the same thing. If you hear us say something and you're like, oh, I disagree with that point completely, don't just sit there and take it. Don't turn off our show because you didn't like one point. Join the conversation. Argue back with us. Hey, if it's a real good discussion, we might even just invite you onto the podcast so we can have a full-blown discussion with you. But that's my biggest thing is don't stay quiet. Join in with us.
I
he gets
agree.
to throw in it's more fun for us and you if you get involved at the beginning of the show. Tyler's having a great day.
Oh, yeah.
And there is still going to be information. It's just going to be how we're presenting it. It's going to be a little bit different. We hope you enjoy this, as I at the top of the show, Couch GMs 3.0. We're looking forward to it. But let's sit back, relax, and chat. All right, boys. We were out for, I believe, 3 weeks, and a lot of stuff in the NFL happened. Obviously, we can't cover it all, or we would be here for the next 3 hours. So we're going to hit some of the key points, talk about how it's reflecting us a little bit. And let's just start with the quarterbacks, because they're going to be the top of the mind of everybody that we're talking about. The first domino fell, Derek Carr to the Saints. Tyler, if you don't know Tyler, I'm going to tell you a little story. Tyler doesn't like Derek Carr. He reminds him too much of Sid from Toy Story. So I think he's had some, I don't know the word, but unorthodox hatred towards Derek Carr since the beginning. So Tyler.
That's a big word for you, Cody.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Derek Carr to the Saints. I want your thoughts from your favorite quarterback.
So anybody that knows me, I have unorthodox hate for a lot of people and a lot of teams. I will come on here and be like, that guy's garbage. And they'll be like, Why? I don't know. I just don't like him. Like, you have no reason why? No. Well, Derek Carr is one of them. Like, he hasn't done anything to me personally. Yeah, he looks like Sid from Toy Story, and that's aggressive. And his top receiver looked like an uncle at a barbecue. So that was a problem to me.
Until last year.
Until last year, yes. But uh Derek
Love you,
Carr. So
Devontae.
at first, when I saw the signing, before I saw any contract details, I was like, now that's a great move. That's a great move by the Saints. That is how you band-aid. Colts, take notes. You don't band-aid a position with a 75-year-old quarterback who's on the decline of his career. You band-aid with somebody who's a veteran, might not be the greatest ever, but can step in there, lead your team. That's how you band-aid right there. And then I saw the contract details. I was like, okay, that wasn't a band-aid. They really believe in this guy. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's a great move by the Saints. I don't think I would have given him a 4-year deal. I think he's a decent quarterback, but I don't think he's anything more than decent.
All right. So I don't want to completely skip on from Derek Carr, but I think this brings up a great question from a quarterback that just signed today of recording that got another 4-year deal for even more money. Daniel Jones, or as I put on Twitter, Daniel Dollars at this point, making bank. I mean, out of the two, I'd rather have Derek Carr. Like,
yes. Yeah, I'd rather have Derek Carr. Dude, it was like 2 years ago that we were sitting here like, all right, the Giants are looking at potential trades for quarterbacks mid-season. Danny Dimes has been so garbage. They're giving him one last chance. I don't think he's gonna make it. We're all making fun of Danny Dimes like he's just some big joke. And
we
then
called
all of
him
a
Danny
sudden they're like,
Pennies.
yeah, we believe in him. Let's go. Let's give him a 4-year deal. Like, what are the Giants doing? Plus, let's not forget that the Giants are nowhere close to competing. And, another news segment, who cares? We're all over the place. We're chatting. Saquon Barkley got the franchise tag today, so he's getting about $10 million. Meanwhile, Danny Dimes is getting a big 4-year deal. So where's the money that the Giants have left to build a team? Like, you're going to be just as mediocre as you have been the last few years.
But even yet, like, I feel like they'd made the playoffs, but I feel like if they wanted to compete in the short term, those two probably had to come back. I obviously am not a fan of Daniel Jones, but Saquon Barkley is a cornerstone to that team. I would have rather them seen them franchise tag Daniel Jones, give him more of a chance to, prove himself besides half a season where he played decent and his team lost more than half the games during that half season anyway. And lock up the guy like Saquon Barkley, where you don't necessarily want to lock a lot of money into a running back, but like he's proven top 5 running back when he's healthy. So it's probably, I think, a safer bet than sinking $179 million. I don't know how much the contract was, but a ton of money into a quarterback that all of us agree is not worth that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I want to step back a little bit. Cody did make the comment, well, they did make the playoffs. This is a big misconception about the league. If you're a playoff team, great. Maybe it means you're this close to being a real Super Bowl contender, or maybe it means you are just good enough not to have a bad draft or have a good draft pick. I can use hockey as an example. As a Nashville Predators fan, I've watched them make the playoffs 8 consecutive years. 8 years in a row where I've seen them make moves at the trade deadline to get just good enough to make the playoffs, make that push. And for the last, I think, 5 of them, they've been eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. What's the use? What's the point? As a Titans fan, this year, the Titans made a decision. They had the choice of really making that strong push to try to make the playoffs and get out in the first round again, or they can go for that better draft pick. Whether you say they tanked or not, I think they did. So I think they went for the better draft pick, and I think it was a good move. Like, sometimes just making the playoffs isn't good enough. And the Giants may have made the playoffs. They might have had a decent season, but they were not good enough to really make a run. Nobody looked at the Giants like an actual threat to make the Super Bowl. So just making the playoffs means nothing to me.
Well, I'll actually tie it back to the Raiders too, because you think about how they went from that first round exit playoff team to being a bottom feeder that traded their quarterback. There was a good chance the Giants are in the same situation. And I like Derek Carr better than Daniel Jones, like we all have. But yeah, it's not a great situation for the Giants because they don't have enough top end talent, especially when you had a quarterback on a rookie deal before this. That's when it seems like a lot of these teams that are growing are making their runs. Now you're out of that situation. you have to deal with that big cap hit. Even though the cap is going up, it's going to be harder to find players to play next to him. Like Daniel Jones might end up being a decent quarterback. He might end up being maybe a budget Eli Manning is where I'm going to say his ceiling probably is. But you missed that window because he took so long to grow into this role, or his coaches took so long to find a scheme that fit for him. And now they have a good coaching staff, but it took too long.
So I also want to talk about Saquon Barkley. Are you still sticking on the whole Daniel Jones thing, Cody?
Well, I did just want to say too. I did think it was interesting how you compared it to Derek Carr because I'm thinking they've slowly leaked out the contract details. But think just last season, Raiders traded for Devontae Adams, signed Derek Carr 4-year extension by 16. Oh, there's a $40 million guarantee that if he gets hurt, but we keep him for next to nothing. Like I want to see the actual structure of this. Is there something like that in play? Are Giants and Brian Daboll really feel like they unlocked something? I will say Brian Daboll did help unlock Josh Allen. So maybe he thinks they can get that upward trajectory. And then I did just want to say, as an Eagles fan, you have to be. They just paid $160 million to a guy that you beat 3 times in one season. But you're probably also disappointed they spent $160 million because if Daniel Jones is worth $160 million, how much is Jalen Hurts worth?
Oh, yeah, that contract's probably coming out soon, and I'm going to have a mini heart attack. But it's the price of quarterbacks, even mid-tier quarterbacks at this point, is absolutely insane. So we're probably looking at $50 million a year for a top-end quarterback at the minimum.
All right, you can go back to Saquon.
Yeah. Saquon, he got the franchise tag, and I know, George, you thought that was a great idea. I'm not saying it wasn't. I know Saquon is basically their team. But it begs the question, if you're going to get franchise tagged as a running back, it probably means that they're trying to strike a long-term deal with you. And a guy like Saquon or a guy like Josh Jacobs, like these guys that are getting franchise tagged, maybe even Tony Pollard if they get rid of Zeke, they're probably going to ask for a pretty decent contract as well if they are signed longer term. And with the Titans reportedly shopping Derrick Henry, I have seen a graphic popping up all over Titans pages, which is really making my eyes open, and it makes me ask you guys, like, how much is a running back actually valuable? So the graphic shows the Super Bowl winning team every year since 2009, and then it shows who their leading rusher was and what the base salary of that player was. Since 2009, the highest paid running back that led a Super Bowl winning team was Percy Harvin in 2013, making $2.5 million.
They considered him a running back?
Yes.
No, he just led the team in rushing.
That
was the caveat. He led the team in rushing.
Okay.
So Leonard Fournette in 2020 made $2 million. That's the second highest. Like, running
was he still on his rookie
Super Bowl
deal?
Teams. Super Bowl.
I didn't know that part.
No, he wasn't on a rookie deal because he got signed from because he was cut from Jacksonville. But
he was on that prove it deal because he did nothing in Jacksonville. Sorry, my bad.
But still, it goes to show that the Super Bowl winning running backs are not making that much money. Like, so how valuable is a top running back?
I think there's a great, and I was actually going to pose this to you when we talked about free agencies, but I'll ask you now because you brought up the Derrick Henry rumor. Like, as a fan, you have to be mad if you don't get, at least a second-round pick. We're talking about running back values. Like, it could be another Amari Cooper situation where he goes for a fifth. Next year, we're like, how did Amari Cooper only go for a fifth? How did Derrick Henry only go for a fifth? But the value of running backs, Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th-round pick, paired with Jerick McKinnon, won it for the Chiefs. You brought up Leonard Fournette on a prove-it deal. Guys just aren't, and the teams that have, like, the Rams, when they were in the Super Bowl, not last year, when they had Cam Akers on a rookie deal and Darrell Henderson on a rookie deal, but they had Todd Gurley, and it was like, he was like the guy, but, he didn't help him get over the hump. The Patriots won all those Super Bowls with, LeGarrette Blount was highest on that list at next to nothing. Like, it is a very interested, and, the Packers just got Aaron Jones to take a pay to stay with the team. And, but, like, then we have 3 teams given franchise tags. Like, it is very interesting. And then we're coming to the draft. We're talking about a generational product in Bijan Robinson, but people are like, do I really want to take a top running back with the 10th pick? Like, there's people like he's the 5th best player on the board, but he might not get taken till 25. Like running back is such a weird position right now.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll read this
this is
list off to you
why.
real quick, just in case you're
Oh, go ahead.
interested. So,
Go ahead.
since 2021, Cam Akers, Leonard Fournette, Damian Williams, Sony Michel, LeGarrette Blunt 3 times, not in a row, C.J. Anderson, Percy Harvin, Ray Rice, Ahmad Bradshaw, James Starks, and Pierre Thomas. Not a lot of wow factor on that list.
And I
Some of
think
those names I barely remember, even.
And I do think what's interesting is Tony Pollard. Like, we just saw the Cowboys, they backed up the Brinks truck, as some people said, when it was time to re-up Ezekiel Elliott. And they're like, he's cut this year or take pay cut to stay on the team. And now they're franchising tag another guy. Like, is this a 1-year deal? Are they looking at it more of, all right, we're going to keep Tony Pollard, but we're going to try to find the next Tony Pollard in the draft? Like, and I think that's where we're going to be. Like Josh Jacobs, the same way. We thought he was getting cut at the beginning of the season. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Oh, now he's going to get franchise tagged. I mean, like, these guys are, like, unfortunately, how many more of these guys are going to, they might get the franchise tag big year deal, but how many of these guys coming up are truly going to get a Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey? Even Nick Chubb is reportedly being shopped around because they're of his big contract number. Like, running back is such a devalued position where, like, wide receivers are making $30 million a year now.
Well, and I think I've heard Dalvin Cook's name being thrown out there too, and he's another one of those guys. I'm just trying to think back to the last crop of running backs who have gotten big number deals that have really worked out a lot. Like, Dalvin Cook has worked out, but then last year he was one of the worst running backs after contact in the league. Nick Chubb's been great, but he's the only thing the Browns have, so it hasn't, gotten to team success. Derrick Henry was a great signing, but
11
like
running backs
they haven't
right
been
now
able
that are making 10 million or more average per year. Those running backs include Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, all on the franchise tag. Outside of them, you got Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Zeke, Kamara, and McCaffrey.
McCaffrey has been the most successful, and Mixon might get cut because of all the legal issues that are now going through there that we don't know much on.
They save like 10 mil. Like, not even talking about the legal stuff because we don't know much. Like, they save a ton of money by cutting Joe Mixon. And they got to pay Joey B and Trey Higgins. T. Higgins. I don't know why I said Trey.
Yep. But, like, then you can see, like, there's situations where teams are bringing in other guys. Like, the great example is the Cowboys were so much more successful, or just as successful, you can argue, if you like Zeke, with Pollard in instead of Zeke. And a lot more teams are going to start focusing on putting together a solid offensive line and just putting healthy bodies behind it that might be kind of explosive, but they're not going to be the best guys out there. I'm also thinking back to the Rams Super Bowl where the one they lost in, where they brought in C.J. Anderson off the street that no one wanted all year, and he ended up rushing for almost 1,000 yards in the second half of the season he was there. Like, that's what you're going to start seeing more of. It's just going to be plug and play guys instead of running backs getting second contracts. You're going to see these generational talents like a Bijan Robinson this year that are going to get drafted in the first round because they're going to have 4 great years. They're going to have their 5th-year option. They could get franchise tagged after, and then in year 7, they're done. And honestly, the shelf life of a running back isn't much more than that anyway, because most of the guys that got second contracts we're seeing fall off around that time, and now all these teams are trying to get rid of them, like we're saying, because they're not worth that contract anymore.
Yeah, so the highest paid running back per average per year is Christian McCaffrey, and you can say that his money is worth it because of his pass catching ability, his rushing ability, his overall dynamic on the team. Yet, you can look at the Panthers, and after they traded McCaffrey, Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard actually ran better than McCaffrey was. Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's nuts to think that these you can say no name running backs, these guys every year when we play fantasy, we're picking guys up off free agency that we're like, never heard of this guy in my life. Let's pick him up. He's crushing it right now. Because running backs are amazing. Guys like Derrick Henry, guys like Christian McCaffrey, guys like Austin Eckler can do things that other running backs can't. However, even Derrick Henry can't always run because he doesn't have a great offensive line. And we've heard, in the past, back when the Cowboys had their unbelievably good offensive line, they would say, like, it doesn't matter who our running back is because we have such a good line. They're going to be great. There's so many other factors that go into good running backs other than just who that person is, that sometimes the value isn't in that player.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good point. As soon as you said, I was like, yeah, no one gives Emmitt Smith his credit because of the offensive line that Dallas had back in the day. So I'm interested to see how this all plays out. If, potentially do more running backs start to go in the first round so they get that 5th-year option and then they don't have to worry about a second contract? Or do you have to save those for skill players that get huge contracts and need to keep them cheaper for an extra year? Definitely interesting to see how the NFL is going to go. I did want to give a shout out to Geno Smith for getting his contract extension after winning Comeback Player of the Year. Unlike the Derek Carr contract and the Daniel Jones, he at least got paid. He got more than he ever will, and he earned it. But his is a lot more incentive driven. So it seems like a good deal, and I wouldn't also rule out the Seahawks for they were to maybe draft an Anthony Richardson at pick 5. Like I think they could be in play there for a quarterback and let them sign Geno Smith.
I'm hearing rumblings that Richardson's being rumored to go 1 overall now.
Yeah,
we knew that was going to happen after the combine too, because as Cody said, he's an athletic freak that's going to make everyone's eyes pop at the combine, but everyone's going to have to realize that he's a raw talent.
He completed 54%
sounds like
of his
Malik
passes.
Willis.
Yeah, exactly.
And that dude fell over to the 3rd. Except,
but that last year's quarterbacks had this like dark cloud over their head. I don't think that's the case this year. Everyone's hyping up this quarterback class because last year's quarterback class was poor.
No, I agree. And we do definitely have a lot more quarterback and draft talk to come up. But, since we're talking about the quarterbacks, I want to circle all the way back to Derek Carr because I had one quick question.
Okay.
As a fantasy owner, and I think, George, in our main dynasty league, you're an owner of Chris Olave.
Yes.
Does Derek Carr excite you, his future, or are you like, man, like Chris Olave had a really good rookie year, but like now that he has Derek Carr, I'm kind of worried.
Derek Carr sustained solid number 1 wide receivers before. Devontae Adams was great this year. Hunter Renfrow was good the year before. Like, I think it's good for Chris Olave having a solid quarterback in there. And the Saints, I don't think as a team are going to be too great because now they sunk a lot of money into a quarterback. They're already in cap hell. But when it comes to fantasy talking straight about him, I think that's a great move for Olave.
All right. Do you like the fit, Olave?
I don't think Carr is worse than what they had before, and Olave was a solid receiver before. Plus, I will say that, say what you will about Derek Carr, I don't think he's a fantastic quarterback, but the dude's not afraid to sling it. And I'll take a quarterback that's willing to sling it with my receiver any day when it comes to fantasy.
Well, there is a quarterback that does like to sling it, and he might be on the move as of recording
Jackson.
that is one of them. Real quick before I move on to this, we talked about the franchise tag. Lamar Jackson, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and Daron Payne were the 6 guys, if you're keeping track at home. But I was getting ready to transition us into Aaron Rodgers. Hashtag Rodgers Watch. The Jets brass that include owner Woody Johnson, head coach Robert Saleh, GM Joe Douglas, offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, and others have all flown to California to meet with him as a potential reunion. We don't know if this is Aaron's thinking about retiring and they're trying to talk him out of it and come play for the Jets. If he's done in Green Bay, he could still end up back there. That'd be kind of wild after all the reports. It feels like they're trying to push him out. I know you guys are sick of talking about Aaron Rodgers, and hopefully we have an answer by the end of this week. But it seems like retirement, Jets, or Packers are the 3 final options. We're down to the top 3, like all those high school prospects. He has the 3 hats in front of him. Which hat is he reaching out, grabbing, and putting on his head?
It sounds to me
before,
like retirement
I don't think
is...
I was going to say the same thing you are, George. I think retirement's out of the question.
Good.
So retirement, we're kicking retirement off the. We're down to Jets, Packers. So he's staying in green. That is for sure.
Because look, I mean, he had that whole dark room dumb thing that he did. He came out of that saying, "I didn't sit through there the whole time just to come out and like take my time. Like he wants to make a decision quickly, and the fact that he's willing to meet with the Jets personnel and he's still talking to the Packers personnel tells me that he decided to play at least one more year. Um, so I think retirement is definitely out of the question now. He is meeting with the Jets. Um, I think personally that I think he's going to go to the Jets. I think he's going to go to the Jets rather than stay in Green Bay. Um, I just feel like at this point in his career, he's been talking about retirement. It feels like for 10 years straight now. It's not like it's because of his performance. He just won 2 MVPs in a row um, within the last 3 years. So it's it's not performance, but he's still talking about retirement. Whether it's he wants to do something else or maybe he's getting tired of playing football. Who knows what it is? But I feel like he needs a change if he wants to relight that spark for football. He needs to make a change, and maybe a change of scenery is what he needs. Maybe New York is where he needs to go. And I feel like working with a coach like Robert Saleh and having that defense that he has behind him, and like the Jets have real promise. So I think he also, at this point, looking at the two, sees a better path to the Super Bowl with the Jets than he does with Green Bay. That's my opinion, though.
I'm not really any different from you. Like, I'm trying to think back. I was young when the whole Brett Favre thing happened, but it seemed like it was the same situation. He ended up leaving Green Bay, going to New York, and then he went to Minnesota. But like he played multiple years after he left Green Bay. Even though he was debating retirement in Green Bay, it seemed like 3-4 years before he actually left. So like you got to think that was a situation where he left, he got that fresh start, he realized the spark was back, and he continued. There's a chance that Aaron Rodgers plays till he's 44 years old, 45 years old, like Tom Brady did. If he goes to New York, they have success, he finds his love for football again. New York being a big market is always good for somebody like him. He's going to get the attention, not that he didn't already anyway. The AFC is tough. That's going to be a whole different situation than coming from the weaker NFC at this point. But besides all that, like I'm with you, Tyler. I agree, and that doesn't happen too often, I don't think.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth in all this, and some of it may just be my fandom. I do think it's time to move on. I think I've been pretty consistent about that. But no matter what, even if I'm ready for a new quarterback or Jordan Love or just to see something different, I can't say it's not going to be weird if Aaron Rodgers isn't wearing green and gold on Sundays. Like it's going to be crazy to think about for sure. And I do think on paper, the Jets, they have that young, splashy talent. They have a defense. They have defensive rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, and Garrett Wilson. But I do wonder, with all that young talent, bringing such an older guy in, if that's really the best situation for them. Or would it be in Green Bay he still has the young guys and Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs and Aaron Jones, a solid offensive line. If they would go out and get a Brandon Cooks or a DeAndre Hopkins, who are potentially rumored, and really go all in, go full Buccaneers, would that intrigue him more than going to a new team? Would Green Bay even commit to that? I think that's part of the problem too. Is like Green Bay's like, yeah, we'll have you back, but we're going to take players in the draft. Maybe we'll get a middle tier free agent. Maybe we can afford to bring Allen Lazard back. We'll have to wait and see. So I think there's definitely a lot to play out, and I won't drown on about it because I could talk about Aaron Rodgers forever. But I definitely think it was worth bringing up.
But because that's been Green Bay's mentality, like I feel like them trading Aaron Rodgers and going with Jordan Love makes more sense. I'll stop there. Tyler, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, I don't feel like the Packers are one piece away or two pieces away. Like, I feel like they're multiple pieces away. Because even with some decent pieces last year, they still were an underwhelming team. They still, they still won games. They still weren't a bad football team, don't get me wrong. But I feel like the Jets, despite the fact that a lot of their big talent was rookies, so you have to see, do we have that sophomore slump? Are they going to be as good this year? Are they able to get the other pieces that they need to keep going? It seems to me, just based off of everything I've seen, that the Jets are hungrier. The Jets are hungry for that playoffs. They're hungry for that Super Bowl. I don't feel that same kind of energy from Green Bay. Green Bay is kind of like
That's your
maybe
question,
you've
then.
seen something different.
No, I'm not even going to say I've seen something different because you might be onto something. But does that start with the quarterback? Is that part of the problem in Green Bay? As a Packers fan, like I don't like. Was Aaron Rodgers the worst part of outside of injuries and stuff like that? But was his drop off from MVP level the biggest
Well,
reason we missed the playoffs by one game?
maybe it's not
Well,
even
Devontae
quarterback; it's
Adams.
just leadership.
That too.
Like, yeah, they traded Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers was the number one leader left, but I mean, yeah, like a quarterback's a natural leader fit in a locker room. But the Jets had a quarterback that didn't want to take accountability and just wanted to like bombs, and they were a very driven young team. Like, I think, yeah, inserting Rodgers going to have to become a leader in that locker room, but they have a lot of voices that seem to be standing out and driving that locker room already. And even if Rodgers was a positive impact in Green Bay, he can't do it himself either. Maybe there wasn't the voices around him he needed.
I think Green Bay could have used the talent of Devontae Adams. They could have used some pieces. I think Green Bay lost last year because of team morale and locker room morale. I honestly believe it. You lose a guy like Jamal Williams. You lose a guy like Devontae Adams. I feel like Green Bay went into last season like, meh, we're going to be decent. We're not going to be great. And they played like it. And, you know, give credit, take credit, whatever you have to do. The Chiefs, they lost Tyreek Hill. It was a very similar situation to Green Bay where it's like, all right, you have this top level quarterback, you lost their best receiver. Are they going to be just as good? But the energy of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they never once believed they were going to be any worse, and they played like it. Geno Smith stepped into the Seahawks locker room and he was like, "Yo, we're going to be good this year. I'm going to be the guy," and he was. And then you see other teams where they did come out and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to be okay," and they played like it. I feel like energy and morale is huge, and I feel like Green Bay didn't have that spark, and I feel like with Aaron Rodgers mulling over retirement, I don't think he had that spark either. I don't think he came onto that team and, lifted them the way that he used to in years past. He was kind of half in, half out. That's how he seemed to me. And I feel like his play resembled it. And I feel like the team overall resembled it. So that's why I'm thinking if Aaron Rodgers goes to New York, maybe that's the spark he needs to get back into it. And if he gets that spark where he finds that love for football again and really gives it his all with the extra pieces that New York has, I feel like they can make a real big run. If he stays in Green Bay, unless they do something real big and flashy that really gets him going, I don't see that same spark. Maybe it's going and getting like a Hopkins or something, but I just don't see it right now.
And just to back up Tyler before you go, Cody, like it's sometimes you have to be able to find a narrative to kind of drive yourself over. And the Packers weren't even good until they were on the brink of elimination. And then once Aaron Rodgers realized, oh, you have to make a run to make the playoffs, then all of a sudden they started having more of that drive. They looked like a much better team. And that's where the motivation's brought to you as opposed to you going out and being able to find it.
Yeah, and look how many times we've said on this podcast, like, brand new head coach, team's going to play harder. Backup quarterback comes in, the team plays harder. We've heard how many times where people are like, "Oh yeah, the backup came in and the backup's garbage," but the team played their asses off. I mean, look at the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. As much as I hate Nick Foles, Nick Foles is not a good quarterback. Okay, he is not good.
He's a freaking motivator
at best. But man, him stepping in, that whole team rallied around him like nothing you'll ever see again. And the Eagles played way better. If you're going off of Madden, they played 10 to 15 overall better than their actual Madden rating because of morale. So I feel like that's a big thing, and maybe that's what the Packers need. The Packers have a change, that big change of losing Aaron Rodgers. Maybe that'll finally get the team, something new to try to push for.
No, I do think there is something to that too. I don't want to discredit Aaron Rodgers for, he did play 2/3 of the season with a broken thumb. I think he did something with his finger or something else. I forget all his injuries. But that could just be a sign of age too. But it's hard to not get excited about the potential of Jordan Love when you saw him almost actually pull the comeback off against the Eagles. And some people be like, the Eagles were already up, so they're kind of playing off. But then like Darius Slay that week on his podcast, like, no, that boy can sling it. We weren't playing, like that's what gets me excited, Packers fan. And this last question, I might have asked you this on another episode, so if I did, we can just skip it. But I probably asked you offline. If you're the Jets, we are the Couch GMs. What is your trade pack? Like, what are you giving up?
Yeah, we talked about this offline. I don't think we talked about it on the show. I think the price tag is going to be 2 firsts. And if I'm remembering right, I said I wouldn't give up more than 1 first and then another piece or like a 3rd round pick.
Yeah. See, this is a difficult one because you're talking about a Hall of Famer, you're talking about a guy shortly removed from MVP, and you're talking about the most important position in quarterback. So, you say just those things. I'd definitely say, yeah, 2 firsts sounds right. You're also talking about a 39-year-old who has talked about retirement every year for the last 3 years. Unless you feel like you are 100% guaranteed a Super Bowl this year, if you get Aaron Rodgers, is it worth giving up your whole future over a guy who might just play 1 year then quit on you? And I would say no. So I would say a first, and that's it. Maybe something lower, like a 4th or a 5th, but I wouldn't give up much more than a first because it's just a 1 year rental.
You just didn't say a first and a third because you didn't want to agree with me again.
A 4th is still kind of high for me, but a 4th is about the highest I would give with the first.
So I think a first is a guaranteed because, especially for the Jets at 13, they're not going to be able to pick a guy that can impact the 2023 season at 13 the way Aaron Rodgers could. And I think a big part of this meeting is trying to figure out, like, okay, if we trade for you, can you guarantee us 2 years? And if they can, maybe they'll throw in an extra first, or maybe it'll be a condition like a first this year and a third next year that can be first if they win the Super Bowl or something like that. Like something weird wise.
Probably make the playoffs or make the championship game or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. But I think a first has to be involved because like Carson Wentz got traded for a first. So and he was bad then. So that's enough.
It was just one conditional first, but yes.
It was they still got it. So anyways, enough Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk about players that are actually available.
Wait, actually, one sec. We have to circle back to Lamar Jackson just for 30 seconds because we did not mention his franchise tag is the non-exclusive franchise tag. So people can put offer sheets in on Lamar Jackson. There is a chance if the Ravens decide he's not worth that money, he could get moved for 2 first-round picks, and then Jackson would sign the highest offer sheet. But I still think it's trending towards he stays in Baltimore, but I think there's a riff. And I think this is probably a sign of Lamar saying, let people put offers on me and show you how much I'm worth. That's my guess.
Yeah, and I've seen nothing but reports of Dolphins will not make a offer. Rams are not going to make an offer. Panthers are not going to make an offer. Like, I've seen a bunch of those kinds of reports. I don't see a lot of teams. Maybe if Aaron Rodgers decides not to go to the Jets, maybe the Jets are like, you know what? Screw it. Let's make a big offer towards Lamar Jackson.
Give up 2 first anyways.
I mean, yeah. If they're willing to do it,
and
then
Lamar's
maybe they do it.
Younger quarterback. I mean,
outside
talent
of that,
level
I don't see a
not,
lot
but...
of teams going for it. I feel like if a team was willing to give up 2 first-round picks to get Lamar, they would have already traded it to the Ravens to try to get him without paying him the huge offer sheet that they would have to sign as well. Not saying that the Ravens definitely would have taken 2 first, but I feel like with the situation they're at right now, if somebody offered 2 first, they would have taken it. But yeah, that's just where I'm at. I think he's staying in Baltimore.
I just don't agree. I'm glad you brought this up because I don't agree with all the early reports that these teams aren't interested. Like it doesn't make sense why they're one coming out and saying that. 2, it doesn't hurt to just pick up the phone at all. And 3, why like Lamar Jackson is, he's been around but he's still like I think he's only 25 to 27 in that range. If one of you want to look it up, like the Carolina Panthers, they need a quarterback. They're one of the teams that are reportedly out. But they were interested in Deshaun Watson. Atlanta Falcons, the same thing. They're picking in the second half of the top 10. If they want to trade up, 26. If you want to, get a quarterback this year that's a rookie, obviously I understand the rookie pay scale, but you're giving up at least 2 first-round picks to move up, if not 3. How many picks did it cost the 49ers to trade up to get to 3 to get Trey Lance, to get the 3rd best rookie quarterback? Took 3 first-round picks. Lamar Jackson's an MVP. Like, I know some people question his throwing ability. Some people say the offense is catered. They've never had a true wide receiver there around him. They've never given him an elite passing option to pair with him. Like, I would love to see him in Atlanta with Cordarrelle Patterson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Like, let's see that offense with Arthur Smith there. That'd be a heck of a lot of fun. But, they won't give up 2 first-round picks, but they would have gave up 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson last year, or they'll give up 2 first-round picks to move up to get a quarterback this year. Something is definitely off in the water when it comes to Lamar Jackson, in my
Okay,
opinion.
so let me ask you this: if you are a team who currently has, let's say, a mid-round first pick, maybe not like an end of the first, maybe like 13 and up, um, would you rather trade your first round pick and another piece that might not be another second first round pick and move up and take a rookie quarterback? Is that a bigger risk, taking a rookie that you haven't seen in the NFL, or is it the bigger risk of trading 2 firsts to sign a quarterback who is solely known for his mobile ability but hasn't been able to stay healthy for multiple seasons in a row now? Like, which one's the bigger risk? Like, it's not even his throwing ability. Like, I
Mhm.
know he's a running back playing quarterback, and I'll make those jokes till the end of my life. But let's say he does throw really, really well. His durability scares me more than anything else, and I don't feel like trading for a guy like him is, a risk worth taking at that price.
The durability is the X factor in the entire thing because there's no way. Sorry, Cody's distracting me here. Um, there's no way that you can say that he's not a winner. I mean, the dude has a 45-16 record in his career. He's a former MVP. But yeah, it's the durability, and that's exactly what it is. And I think if you could have signed him on the free agent market and not gave up the 2 first-round picks as well, I think it's a
Oh, there'd be a bidding
no-brainer for
war.
a lot of these teams. There's a
There'd be an
no-brainer for a lot of
absolute
these
bidding
teams to go
war.
out there and take that risk. Because then if it does happen to, work out where he gets hurt, you have to eat dead money for a year, it's fine, but then you're not recouping draft picks also. So that's why I'm with you on I understand why teams are saying no, but then there's also some of these teams like the Dolphins who are built to win now. And maybe their offensive scheme doesn't fit what Lamar does, but like Lamar could make them an instant Super Bowl contender if it works out right. So it's something you have to at least consider at the same time. Maybe the Jets is different because they're a young team. They could technically bring in a rookie quarterback, and in 2 years they'll have it turned around, and their core is still young. But the Dolphins is different.
Yeah, I don't
That
know. The
team in
Dolphins,
New
I
York.
wouldn't trade for him because, I mean, I'm not saying that Tua is that much better than Lamar, but Tua is not 2 first round picks worse than Lamar, in my opinion. That's how I would say it. So I
The
would not
only
make the move
problem with
possibly
him is
anyway.
also health, if he's going to be able to get on the field again. And I hope he is because he showed so many glimpses, but we don't know.
But you have an injury risk that looked good, trading 2 first round picks for another injury risk that looks good. It's just, but the
Yeah.
Falcons, I think Cody brought up a good point. Like, the Falcons don't have a quarterback, and maybe they are willing to make that move. Because they have some really exciting pieces around it. But again, like, the Falcons, like, is it worth it? Like, wouldn't you rather go for a rookie quarterback who maybe has some better durability and hope you get something good out of him instead of trading for the injured quarterback? Um, it's all speculation. It's all opinion. I mean, look, we said everything about Christian McCaffrey coming into this season, and look at him. He ended up making it through the entire season healthy and looked phenomenal. And that very well could happen next year with Lamar Jackson. He could play the all 17 games and crush it and look healthier than ever. He can go the next 4 years without an injury. It's possible. It's also possible that we have seen the last of Lamar playing a full season healthy because he relies so much on his legs and he takes so many hits because of it. And he has been getting injured a lot recently. Like, he's not a big dude. It's not like he's built and has that extra muscle tissue to really help him prevent the injuries. Like, he's really kind of lean. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Could be a hot
Real
take,
quick,
but
real quick. Diana Rossini, who is definitely a locked-in reporter, said the Las Vegas Raiders haven't eliminated any quarterback options, including Lamar Jackson. That would also mean if they haven't eliminated anybody, that also includes Aaron Rodgers. Now that talk is up, and we heard Devontae Adams at the Pro Bowl talking about how much he would love for them to play there. So definitely a lot of quarterbacks, but they're all under contract or franchise tagged at this point. We're already going long as our first show back. We had to expect that, but free agency, it starts next week. It's Tyler's favorite time of the year when the games aren't actually happening. We all get super involved. So let's go through quick. We can talk about the positions. We don't have to go through each individual one or anything structured like that, but some of your dream fits of the available free agent market. Is there anyone that stands out to you now that we know which guys got franchise tag and aren't actually leaving?
I mean, Jason Kelsey, I hope he comes back, plays for the Eagles again. I don't like the Eagles, but I like Jason Kelsey, and I feel like he eats, sleeps, and breathes Philadelphia. So I'd like to see him go back there. Um, hmm, It's a great
I
question
also
there,
th-
Cody.
I also think I think it's Eagles a retirement for him. I think some
Yeah,
guys
agreed.
I don't think I mean, I never thought Jason Peters would play for Dallas, and he did. But I don't see Kelsey taking that same. I think he's either back with Philly or he's retiring. And I think the reason we're all stumped with this question is because it's a pretty lackluster free agency class. Like we talked,
It is now that all the like
the-
and
like
everything came
the
out.
running
Oh
backs
yeah.
were the leading guys, and now with three of them tagged, the top ones are Kareem Hunt and Jamal Holmes, who led the league in touchdowns last year. The best wide receivers are Jacoby Myers and Alan Lazard. Quarterbacks, you have Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz. Like, I think there's some decent talent at safety with Jesse Bates and Jordan Poyer. Team that might need a safety. I've always liked both of those guys. I'd love to see one of them in Green Bay. That would probably be my homer dream fit. But in terms of like offensive skill positions or getting us excited about our dynasty leagues, like this class is not the best.
So I will say a couple of my dream fits, and this
Mhm.
call me a homer, but I would like to see Mecole Hardman to the Titans. Um, Titans desperately need a receiver, so it's a perfect fit. Plus, they haven't had speed to take the top off a defense in a very, very long time. So having that speed of Mecole Hardman, even if he's not a fantastic receiver, he's still
This is basically Tyler's
plenty
trade
fast.
every year in Madden too. So
Oh
definitely a
yeah.
Yeah,
homer dream pick.
every year. Dude, I love that guy.
As well as picking up John Ross on free agency at this point.
Another move I would like to see, and I know it's not fantasy, it's not offense even, it's defense, but I'd like to see Jadeveon Clowney go to the Steelers. I want to see Clowney play opposite
Hmm.
of TJ Watt. Uh, Finally, Clowney will not be like the main defensive point of a defense, and maybe we'll finally see the Clowney that we used to see of old. I still feel like he's
Well,
got
he
the
is playing
talent.
across from Garrett right now, Miles Garrett.
Yes, but the Browns are a train wreck. I feel like the Steelers defense has better coaching. That's just
And
my
better players
opinion.
outside the defensive line too, actually.
So I feel like if he played opposite of TJ Watt and, you know, maybe the two of them can just share some tips, share some notes with each other, um, it could be really interesting. I'd like to see him there.
Yeah, I think it is also worth noting that franchise tags just went through today as we're recording. So some guys are going to get cut. Either now in between the end of the league year or the first day of the league year, depending on how it affects the salary cap. So guys like Jalen Ramsey could become available. I know the Chiefs didn't tag Orlando Brown. He's an offensive lineman. He'd be one of the top guys. So there's some guys out there. Zadarius Smith, he's a potentially cut candidate just because of the Vikings cap situation. So there's a few more guys, older veterans that could be uh, available in the next coming weeks. But since we're struggling a little bit,
I actually have one I want to talk about if
all
you
right,
don't mind.
yeah, sure.
So we forgot about Odell Beckham because he was going to sign with the team, then decided it was better just to wait to this year. If
He's one
the
of the Chiefs.
Giants can make, I think that's the natural fit. Because it's like, oh yeah, the Chiefs need a wide receiver, blah blah blah. If the Giants can make it work with the cap, that's their way of really being like, okay, we're giving Daniel Jones the weapons. We're not going to get Kenny Galladay, who can only score touchdowns on Darius Slay, and that's it. We're going to get a guy who's liked by the fans, who's had success, to come in and be a true number one wide receiver. I don't think it's going to work with the cap. And the Giants are like a team that just invested in a quarterback that's desperate for a wide receiver.
Okay, so throwing cap out the window because I don't know where anybody's cap situation is at. I don't know who can make it work, who can't. And as we've discussed
Everyone
before,
can
the
make it
salary
work.
cap is a myth. The salary cap is a myth. So I actually have a counterpoint to that. I have a team that I would like to see Odell Beckham go to a little bit more, and that is the New Orleans Saints. If you really think Derek Carr is your guy and you want to make that push, go get him another receiver, because I don't even know what Michael Thomas is doing anymore. I
and
think his
Jarvis
career's
Landry's a
over.
free agent, so yeah.
And Jarvis Landry's a free agent. So put that veteran leadership right next to Chris Olave and let Olave kind of learn some things from Odell Beckham and take some of the pressure off of him and watch Olave go off this year. So sign Odell Beckham to help Olave would be my
You convinced me, and my dynasty team now is gonna start picketing Odell to the Saints.
Let's see. Since everyone, I'm gonna just throw out my prediction or dream spot for Odell, since you all did, to make it a little bit interesting. And you know what? I'm gonna say I don't want him to go to Dallas, but I do think pairing him with CeeDee Lamb would make a ton of sense. And they almost signed him last year, so I'll go with that more as a prediction than a dream fit.
Okay.
You think the Rams are going to rebound? They're going to bring him back there? Is there any chance?
Hey, you never know. They're getting rid of a lot of other players, so maybe they're trying to make it work.
How about Javon Hargrave to the Packers?
Dude,
shore up that run defense.
You're talking dirty to me now, man. We're getting a little too far on this podcast.
Great fit. That'd be a great fit.
Oh my gosh.
For sure. But, we're struggling with those offensive skill positions, so why don't we try to have a little fun with what we do, true Couch GM style, going back to a little bit of fantasy football. Let's draft a, best player, best fantasy team out of the free agents. Let's do a 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. Now, does anyone remember the last draft we did and who had the first pick off the top of their head?
I believe Tyler had the first. No, you had the first pick and you took Walking Tacos, mister. I was second, Cody was third. So
that would mean I would have the first pick, Tyler be second, and George be third this time, if we're going in an order.
Okay.
We cool with that?
Sounds good to me.
Right, which I'm not remotely prepared for. But, ooh, man, this is so tough. And, oh, God. Tight ends are the best class, so I'm going to take a tight end weird. Because they're...
Yeah, no, I don't understand that at all. So wait, we're talking fantasy team, and regardless of if we think they're going to start or not, we're just going like, oh, if this guy was going to have a starting job, he's going to be the best fantasy player free agent. And you're going tight end.
Yes, because
that's the position where we're going to draft somebody first overall this year because there's only one of them that actually exists in this world.
Right, but there is a good one available in free agency. And I just talked about it with Odell Beckham potentially being there. That could mean this guy's not back. And I will take Dalton Schultz with the first pick, get my tight end off the board as potentially the best pass catching options in all of free agency.
Okay.
So I think that leaves my friend Tyler Snyder on the clock.
That is right.
He was not prepared either.
This is definitely tough because there's not a ton of guys to get excited about. So, trying to figure out what would be the best value. What positions can you wait on? Wide receiver, we're going to be struggling for days.
All right. So, I know this might not be the most important position for fantasy, but it's the most important position for football. And there's really not much that I like out there at the quarterback position. So I'm going to go quarterback and give me Jimmy Grapes.
I was hoping I could get him on the turn.
That was my backup.
Good job to steal that.
Did that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have came back to you. You would have to take him first. Because, there's a couple quarterbacks out there, and we're going to knock Tom Brady off this list because he's retired, even though he's on the list on Sport Track that we're using. But Garoppolo is a solid pick. I have it on I have it written down. It's a little bit rough, but we'll figure it out. All right, so I'm going to take the guy that we've been talking about. I'm going to go Odell Beckham as my first pick here, get 1 wide receiver out of the way, because I do think he is pretty arguably the best as long as he comes back from this injury solid. Normally you're taking running backs first in these kind of drafts, and we're all sitting here like, what do we even do with the running back position? And there's some decent guys out here. But but I can't even really figure out who I want to take first. I'm going to take some touchdowns. I'm going to take Jamal Williams on the top of the second round.
Yeah, not bad if we're basing it off of last year, but he is. It was completely based off of the fact that he was on a team that was kind of forcing him to have touchdowns. So
I mean, he
I'm
was still
gonna
a 1,000-yard rusher also, but I get what you're saying.
Right.
If they don't bring him back, are we back in on DeAndre Swift while you think about that? Like, if
that's a whole nother question for another time, I think.
Okay, another question for another. But if they don't bring like Jamal Williams back, I feel like we're right back in there. DeAndre Swift, top 5, top 10 draft pick, fantasy wise.
Maybe. I'll probably go get Kareem Hunt.
Okay, so this one's probably going to get made fun of, and I'm cool with that. That's what I do here. I'm a hot takes guy. So I am going to go with the guy that I feel like has the biggest upside, depending on where he goes. And it's not going to be the guy that's ranked the highest at this position. It's not going to be the guy who has the most television screen time at this position. It's going to be the guy that I like the best. So at wide receiver, I'm going with DJ Chark.
Cue the music, editor.
I mean, I definitely think there are some better options out there, if I'm being honest. But I don't hate the pick. I'm not going to make fun of you for it. I think there's some better options out there. But I don't hate the pick, which leads me to my pick, which, I mean, it's because there's not a lot of guys, but I am going to take Miles Sanders. He did start for the Eagles last year. Up and down, inconsistency is a great way to describe him. But I'm hoping it is more of the 2022 Miles Sanders than the 2021 Sanders that didn't score. And that means I have a back-to-back pick. And I was so ready for Miles Sanders. I have nobody.
Have fun with those fumbles, by the way.
All right, so fine. I'm gonna take yeah, that's fine. I'll be a homer, and I'll take Allen Lazard with my next pick at wide receiver.
Knew that was coming.
I 100% say he is the best run blocking wide receiver in the free agency class. That's without
which is a great thing when we're doing a fantasy draft.
Yeah, but you see, he could go to the Bears and be their number one option. So I know we're not.
And you saw what the number one option on the Bears did last year.
Hey, but everyone thinks Justin Fields is the guy. They're not going to trade him. So
Justin Fields can run the ball all he wants. He's going to run for 2,000 yards one year.
Look, there's not a ton of options.
So before this argument gets way too heated, I'm going to go ahead and take my next position. Since Cody took Miles Sanders, I want to make sure that I get my top running back out early. It's hard to believe, but this guy is still only 25 years old, even though it seems like he's been in the league for like 87 years. Give me David Montgomery.
Ooh. Good pick. I was like, oh, he's going Kareem Hunt, because you've always had a little bit of a man crush on Kareem Hunt until I realized you said 25, and I'm like, oh, he's actually 27. But no, I forgot Montgomery was out there.
You have to be excited about Khalil Herbert.
Yes, that one's true.
Until they draft somebody, and you're like, crap, there goes the love. That's the thing about offseason. You don't know until it's over.
Seriously.
That's why these exercises are so fun.
Yes. Now I'm deciding if I want to go on offense or play defense here. I think I'm going to play defense. I'm going to take two. I think quarterback and tight end both only really have one guy left that I'd really want. So I'm going to go ahead and take Baker Mayfield as my quarterback. I was debating maybe Marcus Mariota, but
I didn't think you would pick Baker.
You didn't think? Who do you think me with? Was it Mariota?
I'd have to look at the list, but I thought there was enough hate for Baker Mayfield that you wouldn't take him, and he could be my sneaky last round pick.
I got you. And then I think there's some decent tight ends out there, like Hooper's in question as possibility. Tunyon. I'm gonna take Gesicki.
All right, Gesicki.
Yeah,
that's a good one too. I think Gesicki has potential to be one of those super cheap, like a 1 year $4 million guy, maybe 2 year $6 million kind of contract. I'd imagine probably closer to 1 year that like could go to a team and really help off, because I mean he was franchise tag last year, and then he just didn't fit with Mike McDaniel. So I think he has some potential to be a breakout guy that is a cheap free agent option.
All right. Well, you guys both have your tight ends, so I don't need to go tight end until the last round because you can't take another one. So my next pick should be running back or receiver. Running backs, kind of rough. Receivers, kind of rough. Take a quick glance at the list
entire
here.
free agent class is kind of rough.
I feel like there's some okay options out there at running back, but I feel like I don't know. Between two people, I'm trying to decide here.
Who are your two? It's just unless you
not
don't want
Mike
to
Boone.
spoil.
Let's put it that way.
It is not Mike Boone.
He is a free agent, though. Interesting enough, though, I don't think we talked about this enough when we talk about Samaje Perine is also a free agent. If Joe Mixon were to get cut for cap and they don't have anybody, that could be a fun team if they were able to get Bijan later in the draft. But we'll talk more about draft stuff coming up. Hopefully I stalled enough for you, Snyder, to make your pick.
Yeah, there's a receiver that I'm hoping falls to me. I'm going to let him go for now because I feel like at receiver I have other options, where at running back I really don't. So give me Kareem Hunt.
So yeah, you're just around late there. I was on the right page, but I was on track, but I was a page off.
All right. That leaves me with 3 positions: quarterback, running back, and wide receiver to fill. You guys both have your quarterback, so I'm going to go running back and wide receiver this time. Wide receiver wise, I'm going to take Juju Smith-Schuster.
That's who I was going to say.
Yep.
That was my other guy.
I figured it was going to be. I think he is in that same tier. There's one other guy I'd put in that same tier, but he just doesn't catch touchdowns. Maybe Tyler will figure out who that is. Maybe that'll be the guy he takes.
I know who that is.
So I'll take Juju, because he does catch touchdowns, and this is fantasy related. Now I'm at running back, and do I take the injury concern of one guy that has been good in the past, had a really good year, or do I take one of my favorite guys that's come out of the draft? When he came out of the draft and never has gotten the respect that he deserves. And I think I'm going to lean that way and take Deonta Foreman.
Oh, I was hoping he'd fall. I was going to have this whole spiel ready where it's like Foreman's going to go back to the Titans after they get rid of Derrick Henry. He's going to be the workhorse. He's going to go off. That was going to be my spiel. So I'll just do it for you.
I think that would lessen the blow for Snyder if they were to trade Derrick Henry.
He does love Foreman.
Look, I'm just going to say next episode's going to be a train wreck if Aaron Rodgers is not a Packer and Derrick Henry is not a Titan. Just so everyone's aware.
I'm preparing to carry the show next week or 2 weeks.
I know we don't really talk about defense as much, but the Titans are also talking about trading Jeffrey Simmons. They did some contract negotiations. It apparently did not go well, and he deleted everything Titans from his page. Now, this guy is a generational defensive player. He is an absolute monster. I think Cody has said before he's his favorite player on the Titans. Simmons 100%. Is nuts. And, I love Derrick Henry, and I would be pissed if we traded him, but he's also a 29-year-old running back. Like, I see the business side of it. It's just, it wouldn't be happy. Jeffrey Simmons is not only one of the best players on the team, he's only 25. Like, that would hurt just as much, I think. So, if we trade either one of them, it's going to be a rough day for me. If we end up trading both, count me out for the podcast. I'll be crying somewhere in a corner.
Figure out the best defensive tackle in this upcoming draft class. I'm trying to think who it might be off the top. True defensive tackle. I'll have to look into that. That's who the Titans are going to trade them to so they can draft him with their first overall pick. A.J. Brown.
I don't need a last year all over again.
But it is your turn to pick.
It is my turn to pick.
You need a wide receiver and a tight end, yep.
But you're going to take a wide receiver.
I think it's worth mentioning some interesting guys here real quick before I pick. I know this episode's running long. Greg Dortch is only 24. He's actually wasn't bad last year. He's an interesting future pick, just not a right now pick. So I'm not going to use Greg Dortch, but interesting pick down the line. Some other guys that I like to mention would be Mecole Hardman, of course. I think he's got some of the biggest upside with his speed if he goes to a system that uses him more than the Chiefs did. I feel like he could be really good. Julio Jones, I don't think he's worth mentioning, but he is a big name that's out there. I'd be curious to see if anybody does pay him. Sterling Shepard, not a bad name to mention either. He is 30, but Shepard has shown some real promise when he can stay healthy. But Cody, you alluded to it. There's a guy that doesn't catch touchdowns, but maybe on the right team he will, and that is Jacoby Myers.
Another pick stolen right from under me. Thought I was going to sneak that one through. Ooh. All right. Good pick. I need a running back and a wide receiver on this turn to round out my team. And I'm looking for upside. So if I'm looking at running back upside, I think there's two people left that I really like. And that'd be Raheem Mostert, who, I really like. As I kind of have my man crushing Raheem Mostert. And Rashad Penny. And Greg Dortch. But I was going to say a smart comment as Tyler's talking of Greg Dortch, but I'm not allowed to. But I held back. I'm going to go with Rashad Penny because he is a little bit younger. And he had a very solid end 2 years ago and start this year, but he ends up getting injured, getting taken over then in that role. But Rashad Penny falling into the right spot could be a huge play. Moving to wide receiver for my last pick. This is tough. There's a lot of guys that are kind of all in the same skill level group that you could kind of go wherever. I think
George, just do it. Just take them.
Just take who?
Really?
Nelson Aguilar.
Mecole Hardman. I'll go Mecole Hardman. I'll take that upside and see what happens.
You went upside and you didn't take Greg Dortch.
I did not take Greg Dortch.
I'm so disappointed in you. So disappointed.
All right, my pick, rounding out the draft, tight end, not an exciting position. The nice thing about this and waiting to the end is if I bomb on this pick, who cares? Because every pick at tight end is a bomb. I feel like it's worth mentioning Austin Hooper and Robert Tonyan. I feel like they are two of the biggest names out there. We've seen fantasy production from them in the past. I love my boy Anthony Ferkser, but I'm not going to take him. I am going to go upside with my tight end pick. I'm going to go with a 24-year-old who hasn't lived up to the hype yet, but maybe in a new system he will. And I'm going with Irv Smith.
I love Irv Smith, and I hope
we knew
he
you do.
Go back to Minnesota. That would be ideal for me. So I love the pick, and definitely on upside, which leads me to pick a quarterback. And I am debating between Sam Darnold and the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. So
this is a great place to fall.
Yeah.
Now what?
I don't think Jameis Winston is a free agent. I think he's still under contract. If he was there with Andy Dalton, would you also be like the Saints and take Andy Dalton instead of Jameis Winston?
No, I would take Jameis Winston.
Okay, good. The Saints are just dumb. Got it.
Taylor Heineke would be an interesting name too.
Ooh.
I mean, he just doesn't get to play, and the Commanders are probably for Lamar Jackson. So, will he even get a second shot anywhere else, despite him, looking pretty decent? But I'm just going to take Sam Darnold and cry. I'm just going to do it. Take Sam Darnold, cry. I mean, there's definitely quarterbacks that have looked worse. That's my selling to my team. There's been quarterbacks that looked worse.
Baker Mayfield in the first half last year probably looked worse. Well, actually, he did look worse because Sam Darnold came in and made them better. But Baker Mayfield on the Rams looked fairly solid. So there's your straight comparison to someone I took as Tyler runs away with the quarterback position because he took it first, took Jimmy Garoppolo like the smart person.
He was the only one I liked.
I don't blame you because he's the only one I really liked too. So
I thought I was getting Baker Mayfield. Why I went Dalton Schultz, but I'm kind of regretting that at this point in the draft. Now that I'm typing Sam Darnold onto our list. But yeah, that was fun. Like we said, it's not a great class, so maybe some guys will definitely get cut as we're coming up. But we teased it at the top of the show before we get out of here. Thank you for sticking with us and made it this long. But let's check out Tyler's new segment, Tyler's Oddball Fact of the Day.
Yeah, guys, and since this is my fun new segment, since this is the first time we're doing it, I'm going to give you 3. today, just to give you some extra excitement on something to look forward to. After this, I'll only be doing one per episode. I'm going to start by just making fun of my own team with a fun fact. So now the Titans website is TennesseeTitans.com. Makes sense. But before this year, it was actually pretty recently, it was TitansOnline.com, making the Tennessee Titans the only team to have a word in their website title that didn't have anything to do with the team. And the rumors on why the Titans selected to do that instead of making it Tennessee Titans Online was because they didn't know how many people could spell Tennessee. That's a rumor. That one's not confirmed, but it's pretty funny because Tennessee is kind of hard to spell.
I can't even spell Titans.
No, you can't. Titans. But what happened to just Titans.com? Can I ask that? Do we know? Do I want to type Titans.com in my browser, or do I not want to do it because we don't know what's going to go to?
I mean, the name Titans have been around for a long time, well before Tennessee took the name. So I'm sure that domain name was already claimed, was my guess.
Okay. So it's probably safe to type it in, but we don't want to. If anyone else does out there, go ahead and drop a photo in the comments. Oh, Cody's going for it. But also, TitansOnline.com sounds like back in 2003 or whenever the internet started, like
American
becoming
Online?
an irrelevance. Yeah, like that. And then like this guy in the front office is like, you know what we need, guys? A website. We're going to be TitansOnline.com. And then you just never changed it. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, it's pretty. As of 2015, I know it was still Titans Online. I don't know when they actually changed it to TennesseeTitans.com. All right, you guys ready for the next fact?
Let me just get Cody load this website quick. What is it?
It's not loading.
Oh, it just doesn't exist. Okay, cool. All right, go ahead.
There's Titan.com. That's something about investing, but Titans it doesn't load.
So it seems like the logical choice for website name should just be Titans.com, but whatever.
Look, no one said my team was logical. So there have been 217 pairs of fathers and sons to play in the NFL. 217. I mean, think about how hard it is to make the NFL. I mean, you have the best high school players, only some of them make it to college football. And out of the best college football players, only some of them make it to the NFL. And to think 217 pairs of fathers and sons have made it to the NFL, that's nuts. It's nutty.
So does that also, though, do you know, like, does Archie Manning and Eli Manning, Archie Manning and Peyton Manning, do they count as two separate?
I have no idea.
Because I think that would dilute the number a little bit, but that's still very impressive.
But that's still barely diluted.
Maybe 10? Like 10 with two kids?
That's true, too.
Like,
yeah.
And
I mean,
I'm
the Watts
sure
have
there's
3,
not a
but
lot
I
of
don't
good
think...
ones.
Was there a dad Watt that played in the league? Or...
Who knows? I don't know.
And that's just father-son. That doesn't include, like, cousins and uncles.
Yeah,
that's true, because I'm thinking a lot of cousins and stuff, like the whole Hollywood Brown, Antonio Brown thing, too. That shit doesn't count. That's impressive.
The Diggs brothers.
That's impressive.
Like,
yeah, brothers don't count. Just fathers and sons. Generationals. That's a lot. All right, so this one, my last one, and I find this one really fun because we have talked about ways to make the Pro Bowl more interesting or to make the playoffs more interesting, and we have thrown out some crazy ideas like this, and we have said, that's too stupid, that's too crazy, they'll never do it. So I found this really fun. In 1961, there was a Burt Bell Benefit Bowl. It was named for the late commissioner, and it pitted the runners-up in each conference. It was a loser's bracket for the NFL Championship Light. It meant it was going for a meaningless third place award, and it lasted for 10 years.
How did I not heard about this?
Fought each other for third place.
Wow. When did you say this was? 1961
is when it started.
The 60s and
did
the 70s.
This have draft implications? Because I feel like I'd want to lose. Not that like pick 30 and 29 make much of a difference, but
maybe the winner got the better draft spot.
Back in the 60s, how many teams were there? 8? 10?
No, that was right around the merger, so there was still probably a decent amount of teams.
I have to go to Google that. But how did I never hear like? They're never like, let's bring back. Obviously, they're not going to bring back the third place game.
I mean, are we going to start seeing this like last place versus XFL game and then like the winner gets promoted? Like we gonna make this minor league football versus major football almost like Premier League soccer in Europe, where we can like relegate and promote teams, because I think that'd be something absolutely insane that will never happen but would be fun.
See, it's those kind of crazy ideas that we've thrown out on this podcast before. We're always like, that's stupid. Like, that'll never happen. And then to find out that there was a third place game. I love it.
Mind blowing. And just to clarify, in 1961, the league expanded to 14 teams with the addition of the Minnesota Vikings. So kind of wish they stayed at 13, but we'll let that go. And
so this year it would have been what? 49ers and who'd the Chiefs beat to make it?
Bengals.
So we would have seen a 49ers-Bengals third place game if that happened.
The only thing that would have sucked is they still would have had a third string quarterback. Unless Jimmy Garoppolo somehow got back from his foot injury, but for a third place game, they probably wouldn't have rushed him.
Okay, so let me ask you this real quick before we end it. Would you be more willing to watch a third place game that means nothing or a Pro Bowl?
A third place game.
I still say Bears, Texans for the number 1 overall pick.
I think I would rather see that than a third place game, even, especially if you have the draft implication against it, because who doesn't want to play for the first overall pick?
Yeah, I do like that.
Nope, I'll save that conversation for another day, and go St. Louis Battlehawks. If we're talking,
go DC Defenders.
That's what you could watch.
Go football.
I actually haven't watched any XFL games, unfortunately, and I just saw the Rock retweeted one. That was why that was on to my mind. So I have no fan affiliation. So let us know which fan of the XFL should I be? Are you even watching the XFL? But that'll wrap up this week's episode of the Couch GMs podcast. Just a reminder that during the offseason, we will be every other week, so we will not be back next Wednesday, but the following. We might have a bonus episode talking for agency depending on how wild it gets, but based on our draft, you see, not the best class, so not too much to be. But follow us along at the Couch GMs on social media to get updates. As for agency, let us know who your dream fits are, because the podcast is more fun for you and more fun for us when you get involved. And we will see you all in 2 weeks.
Boom.
Nice.
Choo choo.